network. For those who have not attended the breakfast before, under this format, let me explain how the 1 minute commercial for your business works. You get exactly 1 minute. Let me say that again. You get exactly 1 minute. But think about this. You have to listen to those Super Bowl commercials. You know how much, just 30 seconds on a Super Bowl commercial, you know how much that costs? You got an idea? Okay, now you're gonna have a whole minute. All right. So I encourage you to make sure, if you can, write down what you wanna say, okay? So you make sure you get the pertinent points out. Who you are, what's the name of your business, where is it located, things such as that. All right. And because once you do that and introduce it, when you leave the stage and after we conclude, that's when the networking begins. I hope you brought plenty of business cards. I did. And use this opportunity to learn from each other, and hopefully we can support each other in terms of our business efforts. So with that, I'd like to bring up the president of the Mosque, Imam Deen Mohammed II.
Thank you, brother. Yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all have enjoying our convention, our annual Mosque annual Muslim convention, like I have. And alhamdulillah, I'm just so happy about the experience yesterday, and inshallah today will be just as well and just as enjoyable as yesterday was. This business breakfast, I was just having a conversation with my brother Clark here, who's like a uncle, or he's a pioneer, well-respected leader in our community, and we were reminiscing a little bit how since my father gave me the responsibility of with his intellectual property and WDM Publications, which is a business he started and then later turned it over to me to manage and then own. So I understand business, and watching him as a businessman most of my whole entire life. You know, when you have a job and you manage a business, you know, really, I think no matter how high you go up in the company, but it's different. It's a big different experience when you're the sole owner and responsibility, and the sole responsibility for the progress of and the growth of your business is on your shoulders. So you become your mind develops in a different way, which is really exciting. You know, any of you all that are in business know that once you have that business bug, you can't have an employer. you know, you can't work for somebody else, and you're willing to sacrifice. And you know, so we don't always make a lot of money, but you know, you do make a lot of money. Sometimes, you know, business is like, you know, it's almost like the weather. You know, sometimes it's great weather, sometimes it's a little stormy. And but I think this is what Allah wants for us. He wants us to have industry in our life, and every individual should have some responsibility for the growth in their own personal life, for the resources that make your life better, that improve your life, that you should have some hands on. And of all the cultures and the people that I see in American society and around the world, that our African American men are, you know, usually the least prepared for that type of life. But all of our women, they experience that, you know, because as soon as you marry, Allah blesses you to have a child, and that responsibility of you being the sole person responsible for the life and the future of yourself, and not only yourself but that child. So women are natural business owners and responsible people. But we need to figure out how to make that connection, and their daughters follow the mothers. That's the nature to follow the mother. but we need to figure out how to make our men more industrious, and the responsibility could start at home. We might have to change the culture, and the time has changed where the man has to grow up with the fear of carrying all this weight on his shoulders, that you're on your own. You got to go out there and get a job, take care of family, and and if you don't, it may result in homelessness or a prison. So that's a big, heavy burden to carry for a lot of the young men. Me and Brother Clark were just discussing it, that the mental illness is one of the biggest, and illiteracy is one of the biggest issues that send African American men to the prisons around the country. And I think it's due to mostly to fear and uncertainty about their future. And women don't really have that problem like men have, because it's pretty much certain of what Allah wants for them and what they expect in their life. But our young men, we don't have that type of security when we don't have communities. When we have communities, then we have security, because then the woman has support, not just from her husband or the men in her life and role models, but from the society at large. Everywhere they turn, they see black leadership, they see male leadership, Muslim leadership, and Muslim men and Muslim examples. And the same thing with African Americans. If they have a tight-knit community where the leadership is well represented by the men in their own communities, taking responsibility for their own lives, then you have a little bit more security. It's more than just homelessness or jail now. But that's one of the things, because even in my life, growing up in the household of Imam W.D. Mohammed, when I became a teenager, it echoes all of they're in the back of your mind, all of the negative, but everywhere I looked, I saw positive. I saw there was a lot of hope and a lot of opportunity, but people were still saying, you got to do this, you got to get a job, an education, you need a degree, you need some money, a degree so you can get some money. And I said, no, that's not. But then I hear my father. I said, my father never put it to me like that. So, but a lot of people, the anxieties that are put in their mind, or kind of whispered in their ear, those things when they're alone, and which is usually what happens when a young man becomes an adult, they pretty much are sent out into the world alone. So all those anxieties and fears, they creep up, and we make mistakes. Do something wrong, get some sister pregnant, and now you're risking going to jail for child support or the lack of. And so there's so many pitfalls that young men can fall into, and I think our only salvation is going to be like in the past, where we have examples and role models from our own that we can follow and look to. So, this is why this business breakfast is so important and so crucial. And although, there may not be thousands, we should have thousands of wealthy millionaires sitting in here. There's enough wealthy millionaires, but when they realize that their future is cut short when they don't prepare the way and lay the path for the youth and the next generation. And that's what we need to do. Our businessmen need to see the value of breakfasts like this one, that are community-based and community-focused on building wealth and supporting wealth that comes from our home. As believers, we're obligated to take care of the whole life. The businessman is obligated to support the community life, and he's given certain leeway, to the religion, and certain, he's forgiven for certain some responsibility, because he's paying the zakat. He's taking care of the needs of those that are weaker than him. And so first and foremost, that's our responsibility as businessmen, not to make ourselves wealthy or to see Allah's mercy in our life as something to make us bigger, or to grow wealthy, and to be seen as something but it's really the true mercy and the blessing comes from what we do for others and for those in need. And that's what really makes us wealthy. And then we get the support of our community and the respect of our community. But the society and the culture tells us exactly the opposite. And our young people, we have to, education, the businessmen, that's probably the biggest thing we should be supporting is education. Because Islamic education will instill the fear of Allah and the respect for Allah and the natural order of our creation as human beings, as servants of Allah, and the true value and the true wealth of human life comes out of respect for God. So the education, our money should go to our educational institutes so that our young people can learn that there is no separation of life like we see on television and the media and in our culture, life and our responsibility, our obligation to our Allah and his messenger and our community, the Muslim Ummah. So, there's no separation. The two go hand in hand, and the spiritual life, is the more important and more significant one, which has the effect of progress and growth in the material world, And we know as people of faith, young people might hear me talking right now and may sound a little bit like a riddle, but basically what I'm saying is that Allah blesses you according to your good works. So the more good you do and the more you sacrifice, it translates into material wealth. I see it when I look back in my life, that's what I see it. I say every time I do something for the sake of Allah, I get more wealth. And I make more progress. And if it's not directing wealth, it's peace of mind and security in the path that I'm going, and it allows me to continue in that path, which also translates in wealth. So this is what the world and society doesn't teach. So coming from me and other leaders and imams, it kind of hits a flat note because the world doesn't want you to know that. Because the world that we see is a world basically controlled and governed by wealthy landowners or capitalists that see a strategy where keeping you out of that wealth, out of that mix, translate into more wealth and security for what he wants for his future. So you can't expect the world to walk you and hold your hand to your destiny. That you have to see your destiny in your religion and in your community, and take full responsibility for it, and try not to be distracted. That's what I did. And sometimes it takes faith. You may not see the path, but you got to accept it. And whether you win or lose, and a lot of times human beings, it's in our nature to fear loss. And you just put that in the back of your mind, say, I may lose everything, but Allah is with you, and if you're good, you won't lose a thing. And that's my life experience in business. So business is a major part in the Muslim life, and it's very important. I want to thank Brother Akbar for continuing tireless in this effort to see us be successful and be an example to first ourselves and our community and to the world, inshallah. So thank you, Brother Akbar.
Now we want to bring up our guest speaker for this morning, Brother Ishmael Shamsuddin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Was God's name the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer? Assalamu alaikum. To Imam Worthy Mohammed II, to his wife, Sister Robin, to brothers and sisters who have come here this morning to witness something very special. Coming to this convention, here in Newark. But I want to talk about a couple of things that I think is important, and that is this business connection with regard to New Africa. What is the purpose why we're here this morning at this breakfast? I have a couple of points that I think that we all should take heed of, and that is, one is to have a dialogue with each other as business people, to exchange ideas, to have what is called connection. Most of all is that we must serve the community, as the Imam just said, as business people. Business people is one who supports the opportunity in terms of organization, such as Mosque. This is one of the things that we must do as business people. We are the ones that are supposed to support the institutions. And therefore, it is important that business people not harbor the funds, but take in share of the funds. So these are some of the aspirations and the things that we must do in order for us to be successful as business people. But I want to talk now, and I'm not long, with regard to good business. But there's good business in two parts. There's good business with business people, and there's good business with our people that have our own lives. We're business people as well. You know, sometimes we think that because we're not having a business, commercial business, we think that we're not in business. We're all in business. We'll all have to make checks and pay bills and do all of the necessary things in order for us to be, to exist. So what are those things that we must do as business people? First, we have to be conscious of what our obligations are. Sometimes we do things, and the reason why we have loss is because we're not really paying attention. And good business people, you have to be on top of things. If you want to be successful, you have to be dedicated to your own lives. This is something that we don't get involved with. We're not dedicated, we just do things. But let's be dedicated. Let's have integrity. These are good business sense. This is what you call networking within our own selves. Hard work. Be smart in your approach to matters. Proper planning. These are criterias for good business. Hard work. Be consistent. One of the things I really want to talk about is credibility. You don't have good credit. Credit is bad. Things that, when you go and try to move forward, then you have problems because your reputation is not the best. I can't get credit, therefore you have to get somebody else to try to lean in for you. You have to have integrity, and this is so important. These are the things that we as business people, we go into a bank, matter of fact, we went into a bank, it's because of credibility. The bankers, and they said, listen, whatever you want to do, we're ready to do it. We are able to put on a permanent mortgage long terms once we get the building up. So we need a permanent finance. We have two things. We have the construction loan, and then we have the permanent loan, which is the loan after the construction is up, then somebody else takes over, and then that's called a permanent loan. So there's two types of loans. There's the construction loan, so you have to have credibility to even get that far. Then you have to have credibility now to get to the next stage. Now the building is up, the construction loan has to be paid, now you need a permanent mortgage person. But because of credibility, we didn't have any money, but our credit and our working together and being consistent in paying our bills on time. Another thing, you talk about networking for breakfast for business, pay your bills on time. I'll wait to pay my mortgage when I feel like it. I'll wait to pay my car note or whatever payments that you need to make Con Ed or whatever the electrical company is. well, I'll wait around and I'll pay it, when I get my next check. But preserve and be consistent, hard work, and putting aside monies when you flourish, then you're supposed to put away so when the hard times come, as the Imam was just mentioning, then you have that reserve that you can put into in order for you to be able to offset that dilemma that you were in at that particular time. Then you can move forward. This is called stability. Stable yourselves. Proper planning, as I mentioned. Adequate financing. Just got married. I know when I first got married, I didn't have any money. I got married and then I didn't have any money. But what happened is, I'll give you a little example. I have to talk this story and then I'll sit down in a few minutes. We didn't have any money. Wife said, how are you going to pay the rent? So we had to borrow the money from our sister the first time. But we haven't looked back since. And that was 57 years ago. Only because we instituted proper planning, projection, saving, so that we can be able to move forward and have a decent life. Do you know paradise is about the state of mind? Our state of mind has to be at rest. So if we want to be successful in business, you cannot have confusion. You cannot be worrying all the time. Then you make mistakes because now you don't have that opportunity where things are flourishing and moving forward. So good business is strategy, proper planning, having the proper finance. And sometimes we don't have the finance, so you have to borrow money. You have to borrow. You have to have credit lines, these things, and you pay back. But if you pay back on time, that's your reputation. Then you're able to move forward because you do have downtime. So I see my time is moving forward. And lastly, I want to talk about good bookkeeping or good record keeping. Keeping control of your finance. These are the points that family members can do. Our family have to have financial stability. And the only way that you can have financial stability, you can't spend all the money that you have. You have to save something. Saving is important. This is what network is about, is saving money so that we can have on those bad days. So we are asking you, I just want to conclude, be consistent, be dedicated, have integrity, have credibility, have a strategy, a plan. Make sure that you keep some kind of record about what you're doing so that you'll know how to plan. And you plan based on good record keeping. And this is the only thing that kept me in business. I know when I started out the business in 1977, we didn't have any money either at that time either, but we have 2 buildings. Matter of fact, from this forum that we did last year, I'll conclude, we had a couple of brothers that heard our talk between Eric and myself. Matter of fact, he's going to talk tomorrow. He wanted to come up today. I said, no, you got tomorrow. You got tomorrow. You have the mic tomorrow. So we'll save you for tomorrow. This is my turn. But the fact of the matter is that they put together a team. I'm not going to get into the details because we're still working at the project. And now they're doing some things in Newark based on what we have talked about, planning and all of the different things and organizing. They are now going to put up a couple of buildings. I'm not going to tell you the details. Hopefully, inshallah, Allah spares our lives and we be here. Next year, we're going to talk about the success of what these kind of information that we get that we can put into practice. Don't sit here, come to the breakfast and had a good time and you ate good and then you didn't do anything about it. Assalamu alaikum.